Hello, everyone. Welcome to EA Zoom. I'm Robin Grabfelder. As we approach 2025, a year that will be filled with many transformative changes, we're joined by some of our favorite EA astrologers who will share their insights on what's to come. Joining us today, we have Sue Hillyard, Suzy Holbrook, Kim Marie, Ryan Evans, and Marie O'Neill. So we're going to start with the fires in Los Angeles. And Marie O'Neill, would you like to start
Oh,
talking about that?
sure. Thanks, Robin. Of course, as I believe several of the panelists here live in California. I believe Sue is in California, and who else? Somebody else I thought was in California, but maybe not.
You, aren't you in
Me.
California?
That's me in California. I'm in Northern California. And so, one of the reasons that we're starting with the fires in California is because that's what's on everybody's mind right now. And so, what we've done, or Kim Marie actually had the time and the chart information for when Los Angeles, basically was birthed and became a part of the union and that sort of thing. And so, looking at this chart, we have a Libra ascendant. And Libra, of course, the ruler of Libra is Venus. And Venus is all about right human relationship. And of course, Venus is strong because she's in she's in Libra, and she is also conjunct Neptune. So, you think about Los Angeles and what it is, then you can understand why it would have Neptune and Venus conjunct. But what's important about the fires is Pluto. Pluto is headed to, well, actually is in the fourth house of this particular chart. And the fourth house is the deepest part of our psyche, of our being. It's the underground, and Pluto is the lord of the underworld. And of course, it's in Aquarius. So Aquarius is about the people. We know that. It's about really the tribe and not necessarily the individual, and it's about freedom. But looking at the natal Pluto, we understand that Los Angeles is headed towards a Pluto return. Now, we in this country, we know about Pluto returns because, of course, we are really, in my opinion, in the middle of our Pluto return. It is not over. But you're talking about fire too. And, isn't it fascinating that we have Pluto in Aquarius, which is about the people, it's about freedom. And what does freedom look like? What does the revolutionary look like? The natal Pluto in this chart is square to Chiron, which is a wound. It's also, but it's got a good relationship with the moon. So fires are about purification. What is being purified there? What is being asked of Los Angeles overall? This is, in my view, this is about nature. It's about concrete, which there's a lot of concrete there. And so, what is right relationship with nature? That goes back to Venus. Who would like to add to that? Because I could go on forever, but I don't want to.
To me, I can see with all this, Cardinal Aries transits that are happening in that sixth house about, what needs to be healed, what needs to be fixed, what new path, new process is this city going to be initiating because of this fire, and a lot about the Mars there, the Mars in Capricorn, about something that's part of a moral path, something that's, not necessarily about something that was immoral that's now needing to kind of shore up, but just about some deep wound again that needs to be faced. And even that the nodal axis coming in with Virgo, we're all in that place right now, is kind of looking and renegotiating, re-experiencing something that could be healthier.
Oh yeah, I love you brought in the nodal axis, because that south node is sitting right there on the ascendant. And it's, of course, in evolutionary astrology, it's where we've been. But it's also where you need to look at the shadow and what needs to be healed. And it takes courage to do that, because you've got Aries, which is ruled by Mars, pretty much on the seventh house cusp. So it's the people, it's the other versus self, and then what's the relationship between Mars and Venus? They're technically square each other by by sign, but not necessarily by degree. Ryan, what would you like to say to that?
Looking at this chart, it's very difficult to say something along the lines of, this is why this happened and this is what they should be learning. I think that, moment definitely needs to be given for the holding the space for grief. South Node ruler conjoined Neptune in the 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
So the collective experience is actually quite interesting here. There's very much in my own personal experience in California is that there's very much a me first. That's what my experience was. I was like, hey, I'd like to establish community. Hi, anybody want to be my friend? And it's like, unless you're in my little tight spot,
Yeah.
No. That was just my experience though. And that being said, if there is, let's assume, make an assumption that there is some pervasive feeling of my relationship with myself is most important, we could then make an assumption that a North Node in Aries on the cusp of the seventh house could signify, yeah, that's important, but look how powerful Aries we could be when we come together. So the only thing I really want to say regarding the California fires and this chart and anything I want to throw in there is that if nothing else, this tragedy is an opportunity for not only those affected, but those who are affected vicariously, or anyone who has a heart attachment to that place or those people, that this is a magnificent opportunity to come together in Aries power, and Mars and Capricorn third house have some really strong solid conversations on what rebuilding can actually look like. How can we come back together amidst whatever wasteland is left and rebuild with more strength, more solidity, and more focus on the interconnectedness of all of us, as opposed to what may have been my shadow experience, more isolated, here's my gate, if you want, you can't ask for a cup of sugar because here's the gate, kind of mentality. So all that's risky to say because of so much grief and so much loss and so much pain, to say that, oh, here's some astrology on it is a very sensitive place right
Mm-hmm.
now. So
Let me tell you, I know firsthand about that. Being in Northern Cal, we've had to evacuate so many times because of fires and but what's interesting is, my experience of being here is different than yours, Ryan. And I have been welcomed with open arms and supported with being in California. And yes, everybody, one of the beauties of being here is that you can be your unique self, and no one is going to bother you so much, or at least that's my experience of it. My view is this is all about our right relationship with nature and our right relationship, of course, with each other. And we are a part of nature. And so it's anyway, that's and of course you've got an Aries moon there. So the need of the people is going to be very Aryan. And Aries is very individualistic. It's me. It's a warrior. It's willing to fight. But it is a me first. If you look at it strictly from the Aries point of view, but that fourth house has Pluto in Aquarius, which is also about the people. It's like being allowed. There is a deep need to have freedom and to be able to be your unique self here in California. A huge need for that. And that is something that is supported. And I like that, by the way. But that Mars, of course, is not but and conjunct Eris. And so you've got brother sister conjunct each other and working together in Capricorn. So what mountain do you want to climb? What do you want to work for? And what are you working for? You're working for your freedom, your ability to be individualistic and be yourself, and build what you want to build. So
I would like to point out that the city of Los Angeles would have recently had a nodal return, in the last few years.
Oh,
and
that's
so
right.
now the eclipses have, recently been in Aries and Libra, and there will be one more eclipse in Aries, like opposite their Venus and conjunct their moon, as they, go through this whatever, with the Aries retrogrades of Venus and Mercury coming in the spring. I mean, it's definitely going to be the people, in mundane astrology, the moon is the people. And then the Venus being the ruler of the ascendant, there's going to be a lot of activity in that area.
and their needs versus their wants is in opposition to each other. Venus is your want, your desire nature in the 12th house, and versus what you actually need to feel safe.
Interesting point.
I have a few comments. I keep going back to that fourth house Pluto. And I think what LA is symbolizing for those of us who are watching what's happening is we can emotionally recognize fourth house, what's going on, to have the trauma, Aquarius, of everything you have wiped out except for the clothes that you wear.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what,
and the people in your life.
Yep. And so, we're watching in real time. There's been 12,000 homes burned and counting. And so I just think it's a stark Aquarian situation that we're all sharing of, a collective trauma. We can all go in and just relate. I live in the mountains, and 3 years ago, we had a forest fire come within a half a mile of our house. So I know what it's like to have everything packed and ready to leave. We never had to leave. We had a big enough highway that they kept it from crossing the highway. but it's triggering me, because I've experienced it. But I think all of us are kind of connecting in. Oh my gosh, this is what our future Aquarius can be like, because we're going to have the 3 outer planets go into fire and air. This is just beginning. And if you look at Neptune and Saturn going into Aries, if you look at Jupiter getting ready to go into Cancer here, this community, LA, we're going to be watching it and reading about it for the next decade. Now, I've been hearing stories that about a decade ago, they passed zoning laws about fire retardant materials. And so their buildings that are left standing are those less than 10 years old because they have survived with the new codes. You can't do that with 12,000 homes. That's going to take a long time to do. I mean, I think it's going to be that it's part of that Pluto Aquarius. We're going to shake up every area of your life. And so I was saying to my husband, well, what are we going to do with insurance? Could this country by any chance be visionary enough to nationalize insurance, make it a public utility, which is what it needs to be?
You're going to have to.
Fat chance, but reality may bring it along sooner or later.
Like healthcare.
And yes, even going into that, and the whole infrastructure, because the United States just coming off of its Pluto return in late Capricorn, the whole infrastructure of the country is in danger. We were talking pre-call about these data centers, and we're getting ready for Uranus to go into Gemini here. And these data centers and the amount of energy they are hogging is not going to allow cities to just be able to have enough electricity. So that's going to, I think, fall into these outer planets and fire and air all over the country. We can have power grids that are just not going to make it. We could see that come today. I don't want to be a doomsday person, but if you're an astrologer and you've got the 3 outer planets changing signs in a few years, 7, 14, and 20-year cycles, they're going to shake a few things up. And here's my 4 words for Aquarius, okay? Detach, objectify, liberate, innovate. Detach from the immediacy of the situation, objectify it as best as you can. How do you need to change? How do you need to liberate? And then how do you fill that energy, that space up in new ways? That's the intent of Aquarian energy, if we can get past the shock and the trauma.
Well, and it's also asking us to contemplate and know what it is we truly value.
Yeah,
that's going to be, the second house. And of course it's Scorpio there and Saturn there in Sagittarius. And so what is it that that particular city values, but what do we value overall? Because that's going to be the determining factor with the actions that are taken. And with Venus being the ruler, Venus being the ruler of the chart, really, and Venus being the natural ruler of the second house, what does Venus in Libra conjunct Neptune in Libra value?
Totally.
That's the question that Los Angeles actually, or the people who live there, and all of us really have to look at and answer. And I tell you, with the Libra, my view on Libra is that you have to walk the middle path to actually get it right. You can't be left, you can't be right. You've got to be in the middle, because anything else puts you out of balance. And Libra is always looking for balance, and it's always tweaking the seesaw, so to speak. And the only way to tweak it is to be in the center part so that you can actually see see both ends so that you can adjust. You have to constantly be able to adjust.
Well, and I also think that it's they're putting up a mirror for us.
Mhm.
Right.
Back in the middle 80s, I just remember this Jeffrey Wolf Green quote. He said, if you actually would step outside of Earth and go into space and look at everything from the perspective of Gaia, we humans will look like cancer cells on the planet. And what do we want? What happens when we have cancer cells? We want to throw them off. And he furthered that, and paraphrasing here, in saying that, Mother Nature will respond to our interferences in an effort to heal and balance herself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we see going on.
Well, and Venus is definitely all about nature. And, it's like you were mentioning Malibu. I've not looked at the pictures of Malibu, and I feel for the people who have lost their homes. And, before there were houses, it was just all nature.
Mhm.
And
The whole
looking
planet.
at what is our relationship with nature, what could it be, what should it be, what's right. And that's up for all of us.
All right, I'll take that then, Marie. So I've been spending some moments looking at this chart and listening to some things you're saying, you've all been saying, and nature and etc. And I've been kind of at war in my head here in the last few minutes because I'm well aware of certain, how do I want to say this, global organizations and some of their proposed agendas. That's all I'm going to say about that. But check it out. What I'm about to say here is Uranus and Cancer, ninth house, Pluto, Aquarius, fourth house, Moon opposite Neptune, Venus, North Node in Aries. So this is a magnificent, wonderful opportunity to, amidst absolute pain and horror, to imagine, like what you're saying, Marie, to imagine right relationship with nature. Fourth house is the home and the land and the farm and the nature. Uranus and Cancer. We're looking at some, Neptunian ideals of ways we can all work together. I, as an organic farmer of 30 years, am more than well aware that every single county, no matter how many people exist in that county, every single county has an ability to feed that county. Sometimes it's through the open field and we got more than enough space. And hey, here in Vernon County, Wisconsin, we have one of the largest organic farms per capita in the country. Yeah, we could grow more than enough for Vernon County and have surplus for half of Wisconsin. We'd need a policy change. We'd need to maybe reduce the amount of hay we export and grow more broccoli or pumpkins, something like that. But with current agricultural innovations, vertical farming, season extension, anything aquarian where we can innovate, I know for a fact that we can be incredibly innovative with our agriculture. We're not running out of farmland. We're just using it poorly. And so, if anything, this is a magnificent opportunity to rebuild in a way that is organic, sustainable, permaculture, innovative, a little underground warehouse of microgreen production. I mean, the possibilities are endless. We can actually anchor, we can actually begin some of those processes, some of those exercise on a very large scale, not a problem. We just haven't had the funding, we haven't had the support, we haven't had the policy on a national or even local level to support these kinds of initiatives. A tragedy like this, we could rebuild, Los Angeles could rebuild in a way that not only is it sustainable and green and fire retardant, etc., but also in a way where we're fed, where we're producing and recycling water in a healthy way, etc., etc. So I would love to see some of these innovative Aquarian initiative integrate with fourth house Uranus Cancer, fourth house Pluto and Aquarius, with amidst this archetypology, to integrate this stuff more into life. It's totally possible, and heartbreaking, and it's so horrible to even say this, but and could be used by nefarious sources, but a magnificent opportunity to rebuild in a way that is more sustainable, and that could actually be uh, uh, a cynosure, an example of how it could be done.
Yeah, you make some very good points there. I mean, with Uranus in Cancer, it is the focal point of that T-square between the moon and Venus and Neptune. And so it is the resolution point. And it, of course, would be hard, very hard, but because you've got to change mindsets. And, my main issue with the LA area has always been, for me, there's too much concrete. It's just concrete for days there, and freeways, and
it's called the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
That's similar. That's the same as, look at Houston and how it floods because it has so much concrete. That's the problem with our US cities because we have so much land. And whether we can address that and do more sustainable building, more vertical building with more green spaces, stay tuned. I just quickly glanced, and if we go with the September 4th chart for LA, it's going to have 5 Pluto returns with 2 retrograde cycles in 26, 27. So it's possible that the potential is there for them to really, they're shook up. So maybe they will be forward thinking enough to do some of the things that we are all speaking of.
And the nodal axis as well, that nodal axis coming over that sun is, what an opportunity right now to really bring some healing and some grounding, that Pluto in Aquarius and the sun in the 11th, that, it could be that they're just like out of the connection to the roots and that healing related to that Aquarian archetype. And then the Jupiter in Cancer is going to go right over that Uranus up there. And so I think it's a relevant piece, this healing right now.
Yeah, it is. And it's a foreshadowing, really, of those outer planets moving.
Yeah, and Mars, the Mars retrograde is right over their midheaven.
That's right. It is.
Yeah, I just noticed.
And the Venus Mercury retrogrades, well, no, they're going to be down here on the moon, excuse me, in Aries Pisces. Will touch the T-square too this spring.
Yeah,
it is absolutely wild what they're doing, but I do think they need to rebuild. And we get these great fires, and fire for me, it's all about purification. And so what is it that needs to be purified? That has caused so much, because this is devastating.
Yeah.
And it's but fire doesn't really care. it's the elements because it's impersonal where fire is concerned. But for us, it's personal because it's our stuff that is going. But it's like it's all been wiped out and the slate is clean. And so what needed to be purified? I mean, we're looking at the Chiron in Taurus, which is, of course, Earth and the physical realm. And you still have to go back to that Venus, even with the Chiron.
And they'll have a Chiron return, you know, in the next number of years as well, because Chiron is also changing signs.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It is.
Yeah. Different chart.
Sure. What do you got?
I got all the ingress charts if we want to, let's see here. Okay. I think California, LA.
By the way, I am not able to annotate anymore with a new version of Zoom. So I was going to, you know, do my little point, you know, circles and arrows, but I can't do it. So I'll just sit here and watch.
I say, I'll work with the pointer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we see the dot. It's so funny. I love it. March
I
30th.
probably moved it. I just couldn't find it in my 5 minutes of searching at the beginning.
Oh, don't you love this?
Oh.
0 Aries.
And look at all that Aries and Pisces surrounding it.
I know. I mean, the nodal axis ingress and the like we were talking pre-call, the Venus retrograde in Aries Pisces, the Mercury retrograde in Aries Pisces this spring. I mean, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. How many times do we need that theme repeated in 2025?
New beginnings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, some of the thoughts that come to me just more broadly with Neptune, you know, finishing up 165-year cycle in Pisces, initiating a new one. Here in the United States, we have probably noticed how much consensus or organized religion has just become, oh gosh, I don't even know what words to quite use. They don't practice what they preach anymore. You know, it's become more cult-like rather than how did, you know, Jesus actually walk on the planet. And so I'm curious to see as Neptune goes into Aries and through Aries over the next few years, what kind of religious and spiritual rebirthings will we see?
Well, you know, just to add to that, I was surfing YouTube and came upon the reopening of Notre Dame. You know, speaking of fires and what it went through. Now we know that when a you know, planet is at the last degree, it's critical. And what we've got is the old systems that don't work, they're breaking down. So we do have the opportunity to rebuild and restructure. And like you were saying, Kim Marie, what is spirituality really going to look like? What is religion going to look like? When I watch, the only reason I bring up Notre Dame is because in the opening ceremony, my naive view was that it was supposed to be a spiritual event. You had the cardinal, or I don't know, you know, what they're, because I'm not Catholic, I don't know the names for the different people who do things there, that you know, he had this ceremony where he's walking with a staff, he's beating on the door 3 times to open up and let him in. And what I'm looking at this, but I'm also seeing the political part of it. where you have the heads of states there, and they're all seated in order of power, perceived power. And so looking at that opening ceremony, it's like, this is the old system. And looking at the hands that the cardinal shakes first, and then second, and then third, and so we've got to come through, and we are coming through a reckoning. And I believe that that's going to happen more with Neptune being in Aries, especially in the beginning degrees. I don't think we really know what this cycle is going to be until it gets to the middle degree, about 15 degrees. Right now, I think it's a massive teardown.
Well, I do think there's something here just with that lone little south node in Virgo as being like the major grounding influence in this chart. It's definitely, we've been there and done that before. And now it's like, well, how can we look at this with new eyes? You know what? I mean, and then the ruler of that Virgo is back at that Mercury in Neptune very, very late, coming right into Aries itself, but not quite there in this chart. It's like there is something here that we are culminating, and and for all of us to ground, for all of us as we live our life, every moment, where's our focus? What are we experiencing? What are we feeling in our body in terms of our own health? How can we ground? How can we be open, have our feet on the earth, but our crowns open so that we can walk this path in a new way? We don't want to repeat the wounds that we are experiencing, and go nowhere. So I do think there is a lot that we need to be open to. That Pisces energy is difficult, to manifest and to grasp, but we live it all the time. And how do we do it in a way that we can do it with consciousness? I think it's an open proposition, something to maybe to brainstorm, like what can we do to walk the path of groundedness, but be a spiritual person,
Yeah, my observation is that this is so symbolic, with Mercury, the ruler of the South Node, and Neptune, the ruler of the North Node, crossing paths. The day before that will be the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Aries. And then and I believe that Mercury is in Aries for the eclipse. And then, and maybe, so Neptune would be in Pisces. And then the next day, they switch, so we've got this melding, this, we're definitely at the crossroads of something with, at the Aries point, beginning.
Well, yeah. And, with that, I like that you said that, because looking at the South Node, if you look at the shadow of Virgo, what is its shadow? And that's what's also being highlighted, and what needs to be worked on. And Virgo can be extremely critical. And if you're looking at religion, it can be critical of other religions. It can be critical of anybody who thinks differently. Pisces doesn't do that. Pisces is so totally inclusive of all religions, of all belief systems. And I also think that's where we're going with this, or this is a piece of the puzzle. And then you look at that Neptune ruled by Mars in the 4th house. Mars is in Cancer. Home, mother. I think also the mother energy, the mother goddess, is being reawakened too. And that part of us that is the mother. How do we nurture ourselves? How do we,
allow ourselves to be vulnerable with so much uncertainty in the world. I think that vulnerability, that individual vulnerability, so that we're not like blocking how we feel, so that we're still open. Even in the face of tremendous uncertainty, we're initiating new paths, but we need to hold on to who we are and not freak out in the transition.
Yeah. Yeah. And that Aries, that's the spark. That's the initial spark of insight that is being brought from the other world, from the divine, to manifest here on Earth. And it's a head sign, you think about it's the spark that comes into the mind, and it's a new moon. So this is brand new. This is
And the New
all brand
York
new.
Times said God is dead.
What did
Yeah,
you
we're
say,
being asked to,
Ryan?
I was singing a little Elton John, how the New York Times said God is dead. Now that's a little intense, and that's probably going to trigger a whole bunch of stuff in a whole lot of people. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to suggest the possibility and potential of illusion, projection, assumption, fantasy with, I don't know, maybe a Neptune archetype. And I think maybe, just maybe, part of Neptune's transit through Pisces is helping us to decipher the difference between the things that work and are actual and functional and effective and resonant with those dreams, fantasies, and potential and possibilities, and also helping us to start to question those fantasies, illusions, irrationalities, etc., that might not have any necessarily any basis in reality, any correlates in nature, and maybe some of those things that have just been, I don't know, kind of like, like the Wizard of Oz, where things are just like a little baby operating something behind a curtain.
yeah,
If
maybe we'll pull
those
back the curtain.
if
Let's pull
those
back the
things,
curtain.
that's right, Elton John. So if those things are possible here, what we may be looking at, again, I'm just dealing in the realm of possibility and conjecture, we might be looking at, y'all said it there, the pulling back of the curtain of Oz. And if we pull back the curtain of Oz at the, I don't know, 2959 Neptune, and when is this happening? Oh, right when just about every client of mine has something major happening in their chart. If we consider, some possibilities here, where we might imagine an event, a situation, a global event, some kind of collective awakening or something that pulls away the curtain of Oz. Now, let's assume for a second that that curtain is pulled away. And we say, oh my gosh, some of these illusions or projections or fantasies or deceit that we've been experiencing for, I don't know, a couple thousand years or more, uh, maybe 10,000 years for all we know. How long has patriarchy been? So if we could imagine those curtains, now we're looking at maybe some Aries energy. And if I consider signs as motivating operatives, then there is a motivating operative with Aries that's based on survival and putting ourselves, not necessarily putting ourselves first because screw you, I want to eat, more chocolate. It's more like, no, I have to put myself first in order to actually survive. And so if Neptune, Neptune and Aries, how are we going to survive if our illusions have been completely shattered? What is real? Oh my gosh. Now here we have what I would consider to be the best of all possible expressions of Neptune's transit through Aries. New York Times, they got, okay, here we are, we're on our own. We've got this earth, we've got these people on this earth, we've got this kind of information on this earth. We've been giving up our power to illusion for 2 to 10,000 years. So therefore, what can we do here actually, realistically, functionally, and effectively in order to survive now that we might say have pulled the curtains away from Oz and thinking that there is some glorious afterlife that we will all ascend to, so we don't have to worry about this earth anymore because our real home is in the afterlife. And that turns out to be some sort of lie or some illusion, then we're going to have to make this reality very, very, very important. So my hope, if, regardless of whatever happens or whatever truth is and blah, 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 my hope is that Neptune and Aries with Saturn coming into Aries, etc., is humans saying, nobody's gonna save us. There ain't no nothing that's gonna come and rescue humanity. Us going to Mars ain't gonna fix it. What do we have to do right now, functionally and effective, to survive here on the planet? How can we all get along? How can we all do it happily? How can we all inspire each other and all these other positive Neptunian traits, but in a realistic, functional, and effective way that is based on our survival as a species and not based on some illusion of, hey, it's all going to be okay when you're 97 and pass. That was my
Well,
soapbox. Thank you.
what, what's fascinating about this particular chart is Pluto is the planet that's rising first. So when you're looking at these charts, you also have to look at which planet rises first. So I look at it from the standpoint of a train.
Right.
What's driving the train and where's the caboose? So the beginning is really Pluto. And the ending is really Mars. Mars is coming up at the end, and Neptune is, of course, on the ascendant in the middle. But so to get to Neptune, you have to go through Pluto, Saturn, the North Node, Venus, Mercury, and then Neptune. To get to that energy in a good way. And that's not easy. And the ego is not involved because the sun is after, and so is the moon and Chiron. Yeah. So the deep transformation, the structures, the desires, right human relationship, what we're perceiving, communicating, and then Neptune, our vision, our dream. What are we dreaming? We have to go through those other signs first to even find that out.
I found an article that I was thinking of when I was speaking earlier. It's kind of following off of Ryan. I've subscribed to the Atlantic magazine. And here's the title of one of their recent articles. The Army of God comes out of the shadows. Tens of millions of American Christians are embracing a charismatic movement known as the New Apostolic Reformation, which seeks to destroy the secular state. The author is Stephanie McCrumman, if you are interested. Never heard of them. They've been around for quite a while. It was a fascinating article. They don't relate to any formalized religion like Baptists or, Episcopalians, etc., but they are very much God versus Satan with the 7 battles they have to fight. The 7 battles: government, business, education, family, arts, media, and religion. And so they want to take control over all of those 7 areas and, of course, impose their beliefs upon everybody else on the planet.
Wow.
Fascinating article, and they've been around for a while. They've been around for 2 decades. And it talked about how more of your Republican politicians since the presidential election have been coming out and associating or allowing themselves to be known to associate with NAR. Forgive my pronunciations. What did I say it was?
New apostle.
New Apostolic Reformation, NAR. So just go Google that one if you want to watch Neptune transiting out of Pisces and not lifting the veil, but wanting to take their veil and just cast it over everybody else, Neptune and Aries, and you're going to follow us and do what we say you have to do. So I don't
Holy
think that,
war.
yeah. And,
Well,
and then
I also find it interesting that that in this chart of the Neptune ingress, it's just after the eclipse, the Aries eclipse.
9 degrees.
So it's a new phase, sun and moon still in Aries with Chiron in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and there's Eris too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, exactly conjunct the moon. So, I mean, I think
Well,
there may be
and
a little pushback, shall we say.
yeah, well, but with Eris, based on what you just read, Kimmery, I could see that as an Eris act. Let's throw this ball in to see what you do with it. Let's, and it's up to us as humans what we do with it, with that. Do we go to war? What are we willing to fight for? Because really, Aries is what are we willing to fight for? And how are we going to fight, that sort of thing. But it's discord. It's discord to hopefully shift us into getting some type of balance. And I just look at Pluto in Aquarius, and I can't see what they want as actually being that's not freedom.
No. I've been thinking that for anybody who uses the July 4th, 1776 chart, it has that south node conjunct Pluto, and that south node is 6-7 degrees Aquarius. Pluto's going to have 2 retrograde cycles, 5 hits over the USA south node natally, 27, 28. And that's when I think the sleeping giants of rebellion, meaning those people who go, wait a minute, I do want my freedom. You don't get to impose your religion on me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to impose your, gender policies, et cetera, on me. I think that's when we're going to really start to see Pluto in Aquarius rebel.
It'll be in time for the next election.
It'll be leading up to the next election, 27, 28. I think I got here Saturn in Aquarius, or excuse me, Aries, which comes along 2 months after Neptune goes in Aries. And in case listeners don't know this, they both go into Aries, they retrograde back into Pisces, and then they go into Aries the beginning of 2026 with 1 conjunction. Neptune conjunct Saturn, February 20th, 26, 045 Aries, the 1 conjunction.
Yeah,
so
that's really big.
Yeah. And so how do you talk about Neptune going into Aries without including Saturn doing the same thing?
Right.
Thoughts?
Disillusion of boundaries.
Well, and it is about the morality in the fight, that we all have to speak up when we see that there are victims, Neptune and Aries, about a lot of that moral stance of, and not necessarily your morality is right for everybody, but we all have our own moral stance that we have to uphold in order to be a part of creating a better future. I mean, there is something here about starting the march,
When I was researching my annual forecast, I have the old mundane astrology book by, I think his name is, there's three authors, Nicholas Campion, I think was one of them. It's an old book from the 80s, but it's got a lot of good historical knowledge in it. And Saturn Neptune as a planetary pair, 34 to 36 year cycle. And historically, that planetary pair has related to societies evolving based upon quote unquote socialistic principles in broad terms. You can relate Saturn Neptune as a planetary pair to a lot of what happened in Russia over the last 100 years. But again, that socialistic principles in broad terms, it could be the masses rising up because they want more freedom from the plutocrats and millionaires and billionaires in today's world. But it can also be those that just want to, take charge and be in control of wide masses on social levels. So it can go another way of saying it. It can go a more progressive way. It can go a more conservative way. And so I think that's one of the things that'll really start to come to the forefront with their conjunction in the 2.5 years that we'll see Saturn then in Aries.
Has anyone looked at, and I did this a long time ago, but I've forgotten what it is. Of course, having Saturn and Neptune together in Aries, that is, of course, a brand new cycle. We've had them, as you say, conjunct, every 30 years. However, it's in different signs. Aries is the new cycle. When was the last time we had Neptune and Saturn conjunct in Aries? And if I remember correctly, it's been over 400 years.
It's never been at 0 degrees.
Yes,
I don't know that piece.
and the fact that it's at the Aries point.
Right.
I've heard a number of people talk about, the last time that happened, and a couple of people said it's never happened. And then I did see an article recently that it did happen close to the Aries point, within I think the first degree of Aries, like maybe 6,000 years ago. So
then we're looking at a cycle that is just ending. That would be 6,000 years old.
Right, which is half of like an age.
I'm sorry, which is what, Robin?
Like half of an age.
Yeah.
The midway of an age.
So this is huge.
Totally. I thought you were going to say their last conjunctions. They were in 1989 in mid Capricorn. But no, I don't. I haven't run across anything on that.
Yeah, you'd have to look at, there's another ephemeris that tracks it back through, back further than I even can recall.
I actually have let's see, I have a
Swiss ephemeris, isn't it? Is it the Swiss ephemeris?
I have a PDF that has the conjunctions for the last, I don't know, 6,000 years or something like that, if I can find it.
I mean, but for each of us individually, those listening and us as well, like, where is Aries in your chart? Do you have planets that are activated through, the squares, and so you can make this an individual story, obviously. And so what are you initiating? What is compelling for you right now? What are you What are you trying to, bring to earth in order to start a path that I'm thinking of that South Node in Virgo. It's something is healing. And then the culmination and then pushing it forward. Like we can all look at our individual charts and come up with a story and, in some ways, a strategy really that makes sense for each of us.
Well, in that South Node, Virgo is the sign of the goddess. And what is our relationship with her, with that energy within ourselves? And 6,000 years ago, I think Demetra George, her book on the asteroid goddesses, she talks about the mother goddess being in the balsamic phase for 5,000 years. She looks at the cycle based on the moon, and it's 5,000 years in each phase. And so we're just, I think it was 1980 or somewhere around in there, where she came out of the balsamic phase and she's in a new phase. And it takes 5,000 years of being in each phase. So what is that energy within us now? And 5,000 years ago was, of course, around the time when the patriarchy took control. And how do we now marry both in that, like the lover's card, how do we marry both? How do we do that with Venus and Libra? Because it's not one or the other, it's both.
Right.
And we can't demonize one without demonizing the other.
I think we're also looking at how we've been poisoning the earth with the South Node in Virgo, because that has a lot to do with our health and the growing of food.
Yeah, because it's sixth house. Well, depending on the house system you use, it could be six,
Yes.
Well, Robin, that's interesting. I'm looking at this PDF file of all the Saturn Neptune conjunctions, and the the one that was in 1773, before the country was founded, was in Virgo, 18 degrees Virgo. So they were.
And I think that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the bird flu also is related to that, because I think that one of the things that's bringing about this bird flu is the way we're treating industrialized agricultural farming practices for their animals. The inhumane and dirty conditions.
Totally.
That it's all resulting in overpoisoning and degrading our health.
So I like the point
that
Suzy makes when you look at this, stellium of Aries planets, and where is it in your chart? So where are you making your new initiations with reality, with your own belief systems, and stepping forward? I think it's going to be important that we're all being able to, ground that in our own charts with the potential chaos that could be taking place on the planet.
Well, we create through chaos. I mean, what is it? Organized chaos in the universe.
Yes, and interestingly, there's an asteroid named Chaos, and it has just recently gone into Cancer. It's been in Gemini for years. It moves really slowly, and has just
doesn't fit in the asteroid belt.
No, it's one of the far out ones.
One of the centaurs.
No, I don't think it's a centaur, but it's a one
Kuiper,
of
the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune.
Yeah, I think so, because it moves. I mean, it's moved maybe 90 degrees, a little more than 90 degrees in 75 years. So it's,
I'm looking at that Saturn, and and of course it's rising first. We know that with Neptune isn't bound by Saturn. However, for us individually to access that Neptune, we've got to go through and do the Saturn work, which isn't easy work. Our structures, our fears, karma, because Saturn, of course, is the planet of karma. All of that needs to be worked in addition to, our relationship with our God, regardless of what you call the energy. You can call it God. It's your business if that's what you do, and being okay with that. But, we all know that with Neptune, you can't really define what it is. It's undefinable because it's unknowable. And I also think, and this might be going way out on a limb, our relationship with other beings that are in other places that may become known during this cycle. Well, they're already known, but the average person denies that they're there. How does our relationship with the divine shift when that is known? Do we impose our belief system on people from other worlds? Do they impose theirs on us? Yeah.
Good questions.
Yeah, I agree with that. The morality karmic piece with that Saturn and Mars right there is it's walking, and then Venus there as well. It's walking that middle ground, being listening in equal measure to acting. I think that balance is an important piece to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it fascinating that Mars this time is in Leo?
Well, I'm waxing Susky squares. That's the beginning of the gibbous phase, Mars to Saturn and Neptune. And so it's almost like Mars wants that freedom to just do what it wants and impose its will, on everybody. But being just into that gibbous phase to Saturn, Neptune, I don't think it'll get away with everything it wants to try to impose.
It won't.
In Leo as the ruler, the king, the queen.
Yeah. But with that Leo, it's interesting because with the sun, with Leo, you can come from the ego perspective or not. So you can shine your light. Because the whole point of the sun on the highest level is to shine your light without wanting anything in return, without wanting to be seen, without wanting anything. You just shine your light. The sun doesn't care what your belief system is. Whereas if you're coming from the ego perspective, it does care. I'm only going to shine my light on you because you believe my way. And that's and so we've got to get to, and that Neptune pushes you or pulls you into hopefully just shining your light just because you exist. Because the sun is in Gemini, and Gemini is so it's freedom oriented, but it's also accepting of different ways of living.
Diverse.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. And it's at the point where Uranus will be when they all make that incredible connection, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. Well, once Uranus gets into Gemini and Neptune moves a little further and Pluto comes back to about 4 degrees, they all make this, and Jupiter will all be, they'll all be at 4 degrees in when is it, 2026, I believe.
Wow.
Summer of
I have a zero zodiac chart for that.
Oh, you do? Cool.
It's going to be on my south node.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the Uranus-Neptune sextiles this year.
Boy, Kim Marie, this chart has a lot on it.
Yes, a lot. It's great.
I'm like, where do I start looking?
But you start at 0 degrees. It's how I teach people the cycle of phases and aspects.
Uh-huh.
You know, because the slowest moving planet is Pluto. So if we look at Pluto, you know, it's just went into Aquarius. You know, Neptune is just going to go into Aries 60 degrees away, and Saturn's going to go into Gemini 120 degrees away. But I'm just trying to help people, you know, waxing sextiles, waxing trines.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that energy is building when it's waxing.
Well, and, you know, don't forget 13 more of these. You know, how many of us were born with Neptune waxing sextile Pluto? Almost everybody alive. Yeah.
Yeah, it started in 1950.
Yeah. And I can't remember the total number of them. I've got it somewhere. I want to say
80 something, I think 80
I
or
want to say
90.
there was like 50 something, but I don't know if I can pull it up handy right away with that.
Yeah, mine's not waxing.
I've got a quick little something. First thing
Yeah.
I'm going to say is, Kim Marie, this is awesome. I love this chart.
I do
My
too.
independent research and study has developed pretty much the exact same chart independently. So I'm going to call you sometime after this gig and chat more about what
Sure.
you've done here. Awesome and amazing. Number one. Number two, the last time Saturn and Neptune came into conjunction in Aries was the year 1703 at 11 degrees of Aries. The time before that was 1380.
Okay. At what degree? Do you know?
Yeah. The second, 21 degrees of Aries.
Okay.
And when the 1703?
That was in 1380. It was at
The Dark Ages.
17. Yeah. And then 1703. So next I'm gonna
Wasn't that the Renaissance period?
1703.
Yeah, wasn't that during the Renaissance?
Historians, anyone?
1600, late 1600s, early 17.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and that was coming out of the Dark Ages.
I've always said that with Pluto going into Aquarius and Neptune going into Aries, that it may not happen immediately, but I think we're going to have a metaphysical renaissance, and it will be kind of the response to all of this nationalistic Christianity.
Yeah.
Because there will be a certain percentage, of course, of younger people, that consensus consciousness that'll buy in to these patriarchal distortions. But with our technological age, add in Uranus Gemini, there's going to be just enough of the younger masses that are going to go, oh, that doesn't fit with logic. And they will look for, you know, more ways of making sense of their world. So I've been telling clients for the last, 3 to 5 years, if you want to be an alternative practitioner, get your ducks in a row, do your studying, lay your foundations, because as we look at these 3 transits, we all have opportunities to be light in the world, to show, to help people return to the occult sciences.
I agree with you on that. And based on something else I heard the other day, Barnes and Noble, you think about our bookstores and you think about technology. And so a lot of the bookstores have gone away because of technology, because people are buying online and all that. Barnes and Noble just added 150 stores in the US.
Wow.
And the reason that they're doing that is because more people are going back to the bookstores. And that is the younger generation going, they want the experience of the bookstores. This started in England. And so now the CEO of Barnes and Noble was brought over from England because he revitalized one of their major bookstores over there, and did a whole restructuring and everything successful. Now he's brought over here. What was fascinating about the interview with him is he says he's not competing with the mom and pop stores. He refuses to go into a neighborhood now where there is a mom and pop bookstore, because he just doesn't, he's like, they are here, they need to be here. So, and even the smaller bookstores, according to what I read, they're doing better. So what you're saying is true. Technology is here to stay, period. We still have to understand and have to work with what is our right relationship with it. What do we want? How do we want to work with it? And do we want it to control our lives? Do we? So anyway, I applaud that, because let me tell you, I am a bookstore fiend. I love them. So,
I've got a little quick something. Meditation is being proven scientifically as effective.
oh yeah,
It was the year, it was 10 years ago. I saw yoga mats being sold at Menards or Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so science and spirituality. And if we consider those born during the great conjunction of Uranus and Neptune, science and spirituality in Capricorn, as they get older, I can imagine their motivating operatives being one of combining science and spirituality,
mm-hmm.
not in a way that in any way, shape, or form discounts the other, but where science corroborates certain things about spirituality. Oh my gosh, meditation works. And in and for some people more scientifically minded, oh, God is dead, whatever, the spirituality can come from these more scientific engagements with things like understanding thought as a toroidal field, or understanding that the heart has a magnetic field, electromagnetic field greater than that of the brain. What does that mean? And oh, here's one that'll knock your socks off. We have cryptochromes in our mitochondria that bioluminesce in relation to changes in the Earth's geomagnetic field. And Jupiter has 0.006% the effect on the Earth's geomagnetic field that the sun has, but it's still an influence. So our body, you heard it here first, our body has a biophysical connection to not only the Earth's geomagnetic field, but the subtle changes in the Earth's geomagnetic field, meaning we have a biophysical connection to Jupiter and Pluto and Neptune, etc. Now, that right now is the beginning of my research. It's going to be some years before I can actually substantiate that fact. But you heard it here first. I can astro guarantee that there is a biophysical connection between us and the transits of the planets, if nothing else. I mean, not to mention the fact that we're caught in our mother's energy field and resonating with her cryptochromes when we're in utero, and then we separate from her energy field and we adapt and modify our cryptochromes to the geomagnetic field at the moment of birth, setting a tone called a birth chart that has a biophysical proof that we are connected on some level to these planets. So when we consider the connection of science and spirituality, we astrologers will one day be able to have actual biophysical proof that we're not just a bunch of loonies that, well, some of us are, I mean, who am I kidding? I mean, but but we are actually physically on some level connected to the greater solar system at the very least. So my hope is that all of these aspects that we're talking about, all of these ingresses that we're talking about, Pluto's long transit through Aquarius, will reveal that science and spirituality on that really high level, ultimately there isn't too much difference. And moreover, we can use one or the other to access either. How many years? I mean, maybe it'll be 2045, but oh, it looks like you're having a negative response to your Pluto square. Let me just adjust the frequency a little bit and boop, okay, now you'll be able to handle your stuff a little more, give me $50 kind of thing. It's not completely irrational to think of now that we're understanding more of our molecular biology and how we are connected to this Earth and this planet. So,
Well, that's what I mean when you look at Jodis. Oh goodness, I just messed up that name. Jodis astrology. They use the crystals and the minerals to help people enhance certain energies within themselves, and so that they can be in balance when they're looking at their chart and they see, oh my goodness, you've got a square between these planets, so we need to enhance this particular energy. So they're doing it with stones, but you can do it without the stones. The stones do help. But yeah.
Mitigation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't that what they did in Atlantis?
Yes, it is. And there's that theory. I'm glad you said that, Sue. I don't know if this is true or not. There's a theory that the children and the people who are here now are, especially the ones dealing with technology, are Atlantean. They come from Atlantis and have reincarnated, and I'm hoping that if this is true, that the lessons from Atlantis have been learned.
Exactly. And if you've ever heard me talk about, in passing, I'm a big fan of Atlantis. I've always been fascinated by it. And then when I discovered there was an asteroid named Atlantis, I started looking at it in charts. And for me, it's down at the very bottom of my chart between my south node, IC, and the ruler of my south node.
So what sign is it in?
For me, in Libra.
So does it move very fast?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I think it's one of the ones in the main asteroid belt.
the asteroid belt average between Mars and Jupiter, that averages about 5 years.
Yeah,
Some
4
are
or 5
shorter,
years.
some are a little longer, but it's about a 5-year cycle for the asteroid belt.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to, I can tell you where it is now.
I will say very quickly, and this is going more from I don't know, genetic or cellular memory as opposed to something I know that I know what I know. It was the Atlantean. Oh, look at how we've bridged science and spirituality, which may have potentially destroyed all of those ancient civilizations. Me being somewhat Lemurian, have a little bit of, residual animosity towards that. So my hope would be that in our pursuits to merge the science and spirituality, that this time we can do it a little more better. This time we can do it a little more thoughtfully. This time maybe we've learned that it's not about the power and the control, which was the destruction of the last civilization, but more about the rise of all collective consciousness and everybody being happy. Again,
Well, we
hopefully,
have to look at how we have used our power over the past 5,000-6,000 years.
So has anybody seen the animated movie called Atlantis? Michael J.
No.
Fox narrated it.
Yeah.
And at the very end, I mean, the whole thing is, it was about the power and the crystals and who had possession of them, and that's what and the assimilation of that energy and the force of that power is what blew up the civilization.
Oh, I can believe that.
Corroborating
Yeah.
my genetic memory.
Yeah, exactly. And so so you asked where it is now. It is 2 degrees Scorpio conjunct Vesta.
The keeper of the flame, huh?
Right.
I mean, I think it is a relevant bit right now with all this kind of energy that's so like chaotic, and so like all the Pisces and the Aries and starting and really just that solo little South Node in Virgo. Because I think that it's an important piece is about integrating into form. It's about being here and now. It's about being human and making sure that we don't get too caught up in the brain, in this, out of our root, and coming more from a balanced perspective. We are in body, we are human, and we're here for a reason. And I think that making sure we connect with the body and the healing aspect of that body, that South Node in Virgo.
It's good. Oh, I like this chart. This is fascinating.
Yeah, here's
Noticing
Jupiter in Cancer, grounding all this fire and air.
Yeah.
I'm noticing Mercury is seems to always be near the planet that's ingressing.
Isn't it? Well, don't you love Mercury?
In the last one, it was conjunct Uranus, kind of in the middle.
Yeah. But Mercury, it's our perceptions. It's how we communicate. It's how do we carry these ideas out?
It's also the ruler of the South Node.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so we're just before the third and final Jupiter Saturn square, and then Jupiter makes 1 square to Neptune.
Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. That's June 9th? That's my birthday.
Wow.
I had looked
Party
at it.
at
It's like, oh my
Marie's
God.
house.
Huh?
Party at Marie's house.
Yeah, because that's going to be at the top of my chart. Jupiter. Yeah. Wow.
Live now, publicly broadcast. Party at Marie's house.
All we need is the address.
God. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the moon is kind of in that configuration too, because it's in that 3-4 degrees that where everything is headed.
Well, it's Mercury Jupiter in a yod with Moon Pluto, and they're also in a yod with Venus and Moon.
All the emotional bodies, right? It's all the water element, right? It's about being vulnerable in order to evolve, right? But how difficult is it to be a human and be that vulnerable? So.
Well, you can be that vulnerable if you've got a strong foundation in, your core of who you are. That's the only way you can do that.
We've got the ruler of the south node can join the ruler of the north node. The future looks like the past, except this time we get it right.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what does getting it right look like? And this takes us back to our earlier conversations of LA, and we're looking Jupiter in Cancer, and we're looking at Jupiter can join the ruler of the South Node, which is in Virgo, and we come back to please humans, can we act in accordance with the natural rhythms and cycles? Can we ask nature what it wants and maybe inject that sacred, now coming more and more into common, the common vernacular here, coined first, I believe, by Michelle Small Wright, flower essence practitioner. Can we come back to that word co-creation, where we're not trying to control and dominate nature? We're working in harmony in accordance with the natural laws and rules and cycles. So what's a way to do that? We can innovate totally and completely while acting sustainably and in harmony with nature. Absolutely no problem. The four-letter word, we can call it hemp, then put the word plastic after that. There's a solution. Super easy, totally suppressed by currently the powers that be. So, just one out of 10,000 possibilities there. But it's something that could actually work. And so how can we do it right? That's what this chart is kind of suggesting to me. And the answers are like what I just said, making those, really hard decisions where it's, some of those very large multinational oil companies might have to retool their production facilities to do more plant-based oils and things like that. Super simple. It's there, just not profitable right now. Well, when we come to, total global environmental catastrophe, I think it'll probably be profitable then. It would be
Well, yeah,
nice
I mean,
to do
look at our country. I mean, we have a Cancerian country, and we go to war to protect. But I mean,
we go
and
to
we're
war to steal other
isolationists.
people's resources. That's why.
Yeah.
It's the only reason we have ever gone to war.
And yet we have to change that. And what does it mean to really be protected? I mean,
self-sufficiency and sustainability.
Hey, Ryan, a little side note. I come from, I live in South Dakota, although I live in the west part of the state in the mountains, but my family has land East River. And I'm not going to remember exactly. South Dakota in 24 took over the lead, I think, in hemp production.
Nice.
And
nice.
So I've been waiting for that one for 40 years.
Yeah, right. Totally. My stepdaughter is doing her 8th grade project on on how to be plastic free.
Aw.
And oh my gosh, I am learning so much about about how horrible plastic is, how ubiquitous it is, and actually how easy it is to change to more sustainable ways.
Which is really, really good.
It's all about policy and finance.
And speaking of, rebuilding in LA, the whole movement of hempcrete, instead of concrete, hempcrete.
Beautiful.
And, where we are in the Northern Plains, when so much of climate change is going to make it harder and harder to do our monocultures like corn and soybeans, hemp can come in And, you can get 2 crops out of a year or a growing season versus 1 crop out of so much of your monocultures. So I'm fascinated by that subject and just watching it evolve.
Yeah, so thanks for all that, Kim Marie. And so, so the people of the world, the solutions are there. It's
Right.
already fixed. We are already enlightened. We are already healed. This planet is already fixed, healed, repaired, nurtured, and sustainable. All we have to do is get our collective heads out of our butts, have some major policy and economic shifting, redirection, and boom, there it is. Alignment with that potential reality, that future potential universe. It's just right there. We just have to collectively come together, hashtag Pluto and Aquarius, and say, all right, this is where we want to put our energy, attention, focus, and resources. So,
Although all the powers, all the people who are in position of power are going the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
true that.
Well, basically, what's happening is people are dealing with fear, a lot of fear, and making decisions based on fear. And that's the part that has to shift, because we're really all one big organism, regardless of our belief. And so we all have to do our own individual work too. And unfortunately, we end up having to be brought to our knees to actually do the work that we need to do to actually shift.
Yeah,
That's what Pluto does.
Oh, go ahead.
She said that's what Pluto does.
Oh.
And and it does. And yet Pluto also is where all the jewels are held, all the, the raw materials to, it will give us what we need within ourselves. I mean, we'll get it within ourselves, but we have to do the digging and the cleanup and all of that. But anyway, that's another subject, I guess.
We humans are such an interesting species. We often kind of subvert intelligence, wisdom, and the obvious, and hold on to what is comfortable and familiar, and often wait until the last minute or things become completely insufferable, or hell, darkness, tragedy has either occurred or is about to occur before we make the necessary changes.
And that's
Ryan.
because this country, esoterically and by Ray, is Ray number 4, which is harmony through conflict.
It's funny. I was just looking at this chart, and when Ryan was talking about humans are interesting and having to basically relive, reconfigure. So South Node Mercury as ruler conjunct Jupiter squaring the nodes. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Well, and also Virgo crises.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which we
have our
share.
We'll see a few of those in the next year.
Oh yeah.
All right, so just in case, let's do one more. July.
And the solutions appear.
Yay!
And let there be light, right?
The higher octave of the mind brings it down to the mind. The innovation says, okay, let's try it. Isn't that what Gemini says? Oh, well, let's try this. Oh, let me sample this. Oh, let's try this. And Uranus, all right, we got some new innovation. Bring it. Let's
And it's Venus, but Venus is there, and Venus is at home esoterically in Gemini. Venus rules Gemini esoterically. So it really is about right human relationship. Gemini, when you look at it, it's two sides. Look at the glyph. You've got personality, and really personality and soul. And the mantra is what is it? I forget the mantra, but the point is with Venus, it's the higher mind and the lower mind, and they are merging. The higher mind is able to communicate with the lower mind, and you know what right human relationship is when Venus is in Gemini, and Uranus is a facilitator of that. They're working together. And look at the relationship with Pluto too. I love this chart.
Uranus has been in orb of its trines to Pluto for at least the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm. So do we go into dogma, which could be ninth house, moon, and Sag, or do we go beyond that? Because Sag is, I see the goal, I reach the goal, and I see another, but it's the higher thought. I see it almost Neptunian because it's going out beyond. It's shooting for the galaxy.
Well, it's sextile Neptune, of course.
Yeah.
Searching for meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love, love, love to see some of these, I don't know, suppressed technologies being released.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. I mean, how many eighth grade science fair projects have powered a car with water? How many eighth grade science projects have proved that plants grow better with good music as opposed to, horror music? And there are so many eighth grade projects that, if, thrown out to a bigger, wider audience, could actually, on some level, help certain sections of existence. I am a firm believer in the fact that there are technologies that are sustainable, that are effective, that are not allowed or not some reason being brought to the public sphere because of the current matrix of control disallowing them. Uh, that's conjecture. I don't know that for a fact. I mean, there's plenty of Facebook memes or groups that, will substantiate that. But, ultimately, I don't know that for a fact. But if that were true, I would love this this year, sometime to where some of those things can be brought out to the public.
Well, these are our minds of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the ruler of this chart is Mars, and Mars this time is in Virgo. We go back to Virgo again.
Just because it's a whole sign house.
Yeah. Or 0 Aries. Yeah.
Oh, 0. Oh, that's why. Oh, well, okay. Okay.
If we wanted to locate this at GMT or something, we could get
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Awesome, beautiful, exciting, so Saturn, Neptune, we start to get really real with our dreams because the former American dream is now dead. And we start to then Saturn, Neptune, sextile Uranus, Venus, we start to say, oh, wow. Well, geez, maybe I could grow some food in my backyard. Or, maybe I could grow some food in my neighbor's backyard who doesn't want to grow food. Oh, geez, what would happen if everybody in my neighborhood planted an apple tree tomorrow? Oh my gosh, what would happen if everybody in my neighborhood planted an apple tree and a row of asparagus tomorrow? Now we keep going. Strawberries, raspberries. It wouldn't be too many years before, again, like I was saying, every county in the United States alone, let alone the rest of the world, could feed itself with the technologies and wherewithal and motivation to do so. So
Well, you'd have to take
getting
this
into
chart and actually put it, based on where you live and, the country that you live in and what the relationship is with even your own, your own chart, and to see what is possible and how it is going to be affecting you. I still believe that we're going to be we're going to get some innovation, of course, because it's Gemini, and things can go rogue there. But we're at the beginning of, what is it? We just changed a cycle that is 600 years. When did we do that? A year ago or something, with the, I think the fire cycle is ending or something like that.
Well, you mean the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions? They're 200-year cycles in elements.
Yeah. That particular cycle. And so now the element is changing.
Yeah,
with
we're in air now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When Uranus goes into Gemini, we have all 5 outer planets in the first 6 degrees of signs.
Mm-hmm.
So new beginnings, new beginnings, new beginnings.
Definitely.
New
And
beginnings.
children, really, because, you look at it by age, that's really young. I mean, we don't know what we're doing yet. We have aspirations, and we're going to have to experiment. We still aren't going to know what this cycle is going to be for quite a while.
Well, and I love that I just noticed that Mercury, the ruler of Uranus, or the escort, how about that? The is in Leo, and they're in a quintile. So it's, the possibilities I think are endless. The genius that could come out of this could be.
It can be, yeah, as long as we practice organized chaos, because Gemini with Aquarius, where's the grounding there? Because it's air.
It could be very related to AI.
Hmm?
It might be very related to AI.
It might be.
Advances in AI technology.
Well, we do have, Mars in Virgo, a little bit of grounding, the South Node in Virgo.
the energy and motivation to plant apple trees and asparagus.
Go, Ryan.
I'm going to preach this till, for the next 5 years at least.
I need to tend to my asparagus patch.
Better, yo.
But do you even like asparagus?
I love it.
Give me Brussels sprouts.
Hey, I have a 50-foot row of elderberries. Does that count?
Yes, yes, it does.
Elderberries and buffalo berries.
Yes.
There you go.
Totally.
I don't know what a buffalo berry is. Thank you.
That
We have
works.
lemons.
Yep, perfect. We'll trade you elderberries for lemons, and maybe somebody's got some ginger. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And there's your cold food for the recipe for the winter.
Yeah.
Solutions are there.
Yeah, I'm wondering, okay, so cryptocurrency.
Sure.
That's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, with the Uranus and Gemini.
And on one level, but the other thing that's circulating in the Donald Trump circles is to take gold out of Fort Knox and make cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin equal to the dollar standard. It will create financial chaos on the planet because it will destabilize the dollar. And so much of what holds the United States together is that all the countries of the world, especially your poorer third world countries, all their loans, everything trades through the dollar. And that's the backhandedness that's going on with Russia and China, or the BRICS. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. they all want to shift away from the dollar. And so there's literally this movement, and we're going to have a Republican controlled Congress and executive branch for 2 years. And if they do want to regulate Bitcoin and put it in competition with the dollar, chaos. There's your distortions of Uranus and Gemini.
Mm-hmm. That can certainly happen.
I'm a very big fan of the public banking movement that was started by Ellen Brown. In her latest book is Banking on the People. She's written 3 books over Pluto and Capricorn. When Pluto went into Capricorn, and we had the Great Recession, I thought, okay, I gotta add financial astrology to my repertoire, not so I can gamble on the stock market, but so that I understand basics of economics with Capricorn. And so she has been in this public banking movement for 20 plus years. And it's all based out of the Bank of North Dakota, which in 1919, 100 years ago, created its own central bank. North Dakota has more banks per capita than any other state in the country. North Dakota has about 800,000 people, and they're sitting on over $5 billion cash, and it is not oil. We have boom bust cycles all over the place. What happens with the Bank of North Dakota? It acts like a mini Fed, and it has to do home mortgages, student loans, agricultural loans, and small business loans. And so it supports its own economy, and all of the interest, all the profits. And by the way, it averages 15 to 20% return every year, has consistently for over 20 years. I'm on my soapbox. And so it just returns all that money back to the people, back to the people, back to the people. When they had the Red River flood in Fargo, eastern North Dakota, about a decade ago, they didn't need any federal support. They immediately had the cash to go in and take care of the people, do everything the Red Cross does. They got reimbursed by the federal government because they were smart, but they had all the resources to just go in and save their community. And so the public banking movement, whether you have a city bank, a county bank, a land bank, a state bank, there's a lot of powers that be that really want to keep this suppressed. And I am really hoping Pluto and Aquarius will bring this about. Several states have bills working their way through their state legislatures with all the lobbyists trying to destroy it. Any infrastructure in the United States, about 45% of the cost is interest. And it goes to all of the rich bondholders, millionaires, billionaires. If we could finance our own and do what banks do, we would have, like Ryan says, we got more than enough money to feed ourselves. We got more than enough money to take lead out of our plumbing. We got plenty enough money to repair the potholes. All that interest, all that profit goes back to the public to take care of public utility. Publicbankinginstitute.org.
Thank you, Kim Marie.
.org. I can't say this loudly enough.
You did didn't you do an EA Zoom meeting about this?
I may have.
I think you did, and I'll find it and put a link to it in the description of this video.
The public banking movement, I probably did. It's been my soapbox.
Yeah.
Ryan, you and I got to get together.
Yeah.
You got the food, I'll change the infrastructure, okay?
I love them South Dakota hills. I'd love to take myself a road trip out there, stop at Wall Drug, get myself a cinnamon roll.
Yes, sirree.
Isn't that where Rocky Raccoon was?
Yes, the Beatles song Rocky Raccoon was about Deadwood, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, but publicbankinginstitute.org, it's so simple, and the powers that be do not want the public educated. So that's why, that's my hope, Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius.
It's not in every state though, is it?
No, the North Dakota is the only state that has its own state bank. So North Dakota does not send any of its resources to Wall Street. All its pension funds, all its state assets and resources, they stay in North Dakota.
But there's no way to participate in that if you don't live there.
No, unless you want to set up an account in one of their state bank, in one of their public banks.
Well, it makes me wonder why other states like California
Hmm.
don't have something.
Ellen Brown is from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So she must.
Yes, she's from the local area, and she has been she was a co-founder of the publicbankinginstitute.org, and they have been fighting that in California and Oregon and your liberal states for quite a while. But all the banking lobbyists do not want this to happen because there goes their profits.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like credit unions.
Yeah.
Well, and this might be the interesting thing to go back to. Let's see here. I think I did this one. There. I did do California's
Oh,
chart.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but so, Los Angeles with that, 5-degree
Whoa.
Pluto, okay, they might be innovators of the public banking movement because a city can create a banking charter, a county can, a state can. And again, it takes out the high risk because their charters are not to return profit to a shareholder. Their charters are to return profits to the
Mhm.
public, to
Well,
the
that
public
would be
utilities.
Pluto and Aquarius for sure.
Exactly. Yep. So again, her latest book is Banking on the People.
Okay,
Ellen
I will
yeah.
add that to the description.
Brown.
That's good.
Brown.
Because my goodness, Venus being next to Uranus, Venus is the money.
Yeah, totally. And sooner or later, this public banking movement will take off because there is no choice with all of the natural disasters and the billions of dollars of infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt.
Well,
bank's failing.
yeah. California's got Pluto, coming to the IC toward the middle of Pluto, but that's 10 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not
Or
up
less.
on the latest on how far bills are in making it through state legislatures, but the publicbankinginstitute.org, they keep maps of what states have what bills and how far along they are, and then of course, whatever annual, biannual legislatures, then the bills start all over. So I thought it would have its day before now, but Pluto and Capricorn didn't want to let go. So here's the Pluto and Aquarius.
Yeah. Wow, look at that conjunction with Pluto and Uranus. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what happened when Uranus went into Aries. We had
It was 2010, wasn't it?
the Fukushima disaster in
Yeah.
Japan, but we also had things going on in California as well.
Well, we've had lots of fires over the years. That's, been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
It's good. All right.
Well, is there anything else that we want to talk about, or are we about talked out? We've been going a couple hours, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm about talked out.
Well, tomorrow we're going to have a part 2.
In addition to the EA Zoom webinar I did, Sue, I would tell you, put a little shout out to the Public Banking Institute.
I will. I'll put the URL in the description as well.
There'll be enough Californians that might be interested in that with everything going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
hosting this.
Well, thank Robin for putting it all together. She's been working hard at getting everybody
Yay, Robin.
together.
Yay. You're over COVID.
Yes, and overcovered. So, and
All
tomorrow
right.
we'll have another presentation with, we're going to have Jordan and Michelle and Redwood, and I'm missing somebody. Marty. Yes. So
I keep missing
get
Marty.
their perspectives on everything.
I haven't connected with her for many moons.
Rachel, I saw your heart. Thank you. Is there anything that you would like to ask or comment on? I think you should be able to unmute if you'd like to.
I just want to say this was a great presentation. I really enjoyed everybody's perspective, and thank you for putting these on. So that's it.
Well, thanks for
Thanks
joining
for joining us.
Thanks.
Jinx.
Oh, I thought of one more thing to say, and maybe there'll be future webinars about it, but this Venus retrograde, if I can, I'll do one more slide.
Oh, I saw that Venus pentagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so 5 Venus retrogrades every 8 years makes a pentagram.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be the first time Venus has a heliacal rising in Pisces. So for the last 100 years, this point of the star, the heliacal rising, which is Venus retrograde, when it just comes up in the morning skies to rise to the heavens really fast before it's done with its retrograde. This is the first time again that it will be out of Aries and into Pisces.
Yes, and then the Venus stars will start occurring in Pisces. In maybe 8 years, I think it is. I can't remember. I know we have at least one more in Aries. I think maybe 2 more, so it might be 12 years for the beginning of Pisces. But yes, we're headed toward a Pisces and a Libra, right? Yeah, because we just had that the beginning of the Libra one.
Well, and because interestingly enough, here I'll go back to my little pointer for a moment. If you haven't been paying attention, the last retrograde, they've been going from Virgo to Leo, and then they've been going from Aquarius to Capricorn. So the 5-pointed star is and then before that Gemini. So now this one goes out, it's going to be Pisces, and then pretty soon it'll go to Libra. And so the 5-pointed star will have made its heliacal shift by signs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from Mars signs into Venus signs, which I find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will have to have another panel to discuss this in March.
Yeah, because we'll also have the Mercury retrograde in Aries at the same time.
Exactly. So there's the Venus retrograde here. Just for anybody who's been sticking around or watches this later on, this is the Venus-Mercury conjunctions to the North Node, to Neptune and Saturn, to both of their retrograde cycles in the midst of the North Node eclipse season. So that's a lot of conjunctions in Pisces and Aries going back to, our ingresses into Aries.
And the switch between Pisces and Aries.
Mm-hmm.
Both ways. I mean, we've got the nodes going back and then Saturn and Neptune going forward, crisscrossing right at the 0 point.
Yes.
Crazy.
Mhm.
What a busy year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buckle down and ground yourself. North Node, lots of time in nature.
Good advice. Excellent advice. Okie doke. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Robin, Sue,
Bye.
everybody. Until next
All
Until
right.